If you want your water there for you too.
I'm perfect, thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and continue with UCLA Coach Rick Neuheisel. We'll have Coach make an opening statement. We'll take questions, and then again we have the handheld microphones on the side of the room. Just raise your hand, and we'll get those to you.
Sorry, we are a little bit tardy. There were some winds in Los Angeles that kept us from getting out of town on time, but very excited to be here in the inaugural Pac-12 championship game. Obviously, we're here under some unique circumstances, but here nonetheless. And we look forward to playing our best. It will take that to be competitive against a highly, highly talented and highly explosive operation in the University of Oregon. Chip Kelly's to be congratulated for the juggernaut that he's created here. And but it's a great opportunity for us to be in this, as I said, the inaugural game, and we look forward to putting our best foot forward, and hopefully we won't disappoint. Questions? Given the events of the last week, what did it mean yesterday for you personally to be carried off that football field by your players? Oh, that was something I'll have forever. You know, this is a business where you don't necessarily get to work for instant gratification. You got to work for delayed gratification, in that you try to create relationships with players, but it's always about, you know, trying to push and prod and get them to be not only the best players they can be, but also the best people they can be. And so to be thought of the way I was thought of, at least for that moment, is very, very rewarding, and something that I will, as I said, have forever.
Coach, as someone who's been around the conference for a number of years, do you have any thoughts on why there's been so many coaching changes this particular year as opposed to years where there's been a fair amount of stability?
Oh, I think coaching changes are cyclical. You know, it just happens that the wheel stopped on a couple of places in this conference for this particular year. You know, these are tough. This is a tough occupation, because not only do you have to avoid the pitfalls that have fallen on some other programs that are outside the lines, but also you have to be very successful inside the lines. And unfortunately, I wasn't successful enough. And the other thing that's happening in college football today, as opposed maybe than years and years ago, is the perception of the programs becomes so important. And if you have a bad night that's a nationally televised game or something like that, the perception can get going down a slippery slope that's sometimes hard to stop. And you know, I understand the predicament those who make these decisions find themselves in, because of the need for outside revenue to support programs. You know, football can sustain itself, but the rest of the sports cannot, and they're equally as important. So to keep things going, you have to have the support of the generous donors that exist around the country, and those generous donors also have opinions and perceptions, and so those have to be weighed into the equation. And so there's going to be more volatility with respect to the hiring and firing of guys in my position. It's just part of the deal.
Coach, back here in the back.
Yeah.
How back here, straight back? How
standing? There you go.
Standing. Sorry.
You're dual. You're a dual guy.
There you go.
Shooting it and asking the questions.
How difficult has it been coming off the USC loss, a really disappointing loss, to come here and play in this game? It's a quick turnaround, but is it difficult, mentally?
I made the point to the team at the conclusion of the, as you mentioned, difficult and embarrassing loss to USC, that we didn't have time to wallow in self-pity. We didn't have the luxury of that. We didn't have time to, you know, go through the carnage that was that evening. We had to get about the next chore, which was getting ready for this game. There'll be time to analyze what exactly took place. There were certainly a number of opportunities to keep that game competitive, and we squandered them. The opening drive to answer their early touchdown, we got down to the 1 yard line and didn't get it in. So, but the point is, we didn't have time to worry about that. And we do have experience in getting up off the mat. We've done it before. We had a very difficult loss in Tucson on a Thursday night and came back the very next outing and beat a talented Cal team, and then followed that up with a victory over a very talented Arizona State team. So we have experience under our belt to lend itself to getting up, finding yourself, and playing much better football, and hopefully that'll be the case again tomorrow night.
Kind of related to that, how about when something bad, I mean, because of the circumstances, or with you and just coming off the USC game, when something bad inevitably will happen tomorrow night during the game. How do you keep it from
steamrolling?
Snowballing?
Yeah. Well, that's a predicament that we have to find our way out of. There's no question. We are not going to contain Oregon for 60 minutes. They're too explosive a team. They're going to make their share of plays. But we have to be able to respond, whether it be with our offense going out there and matching, or whether our defense has to go out there and get them stopped the next time. Someone's got to rise up and make those plays if we expect to be competitive tomorrow night. And everybody ought to be looking forward to being that one, that guy who makes the play that gets the tide stemmed. And ultimately, that's what we're talking about. Finding the resolve to get this done. We've been about being relentlessly positive since I arrived there 4 years ago. And we knew that this was going to be a tough road with respect to getting it all the way back to where we want to be. And yet, despite all the difficulty and all the adversity, whether on the field or off, or with injuries or the like, we're a game away from playing in a Rose Bowl, which is the amazing thing about all of this. And so we're going to take our swings.
Coach, has Oregon's ascension, Stanford to a certain degree, been part of the reason why UCLA has not been what you wanted it to be when you took over 4 years ago? And obviously USC is there as a factor as well.
I think everybody has to look at their own circumstance individually. I don't think you can look around the country and point at them as a reason for your own situation. I think there are many examples around the country of people who've said, this is where we want to go, and this is how we're getting there, and then have executed the plan. For whatever reason, we've not been one of those. And right now the axe falls on my head as the reason. And I'm big enough and sturdy enough to accept that assessment. I don't necessarily have to agree with it, but I accept it, and I hope nothing but good things for UCLA football in the future.
Back right.
Obviously, you are in the midst of preparing for tomorrow's game, but have you heard any interest from other programs?
I really haven't. I've gotten a lot of well wishes, from folks. You're doing a nice job handling the adversity and all that kind of stuff. But I have not responded to all that stuff because there's a game at hand. And one of the things we preached throughout my tenure at UCLA is that tough times don't last, tough people do, and finish what you start. It's all about commitment, and ultimately commitment is just that, finishing what you start. And so I was excited that I got to stay in my role as head coach for this particular game, and to do just that, see if we can't find a little lightning in a bottle and make this a game.
Rick, this week, has there been a moment where it's kind of hit you that this whole thing is kind of surreal? Oh,
no question. I've used that word many times this week. Because as you're getting ready to play the inaugural Pac-12 championship game, there aren't very many people that are doing that at the same time going, this is the last time I get to coach on this field. And being that UCLA is my alma mater, it's a definite hard pill to swallow. Wanting so desperately to have provided the leadership that could take us back to the throne, and falling short. So that's been tough, but I guess almost as a silver lining, I've gotten this other stuff to concentrate on, and it's been welcome in that I can focus on game plans, I can focus on the normal preparation that a game week needs, and is my responsibility, and we go forward. When it's all said and done, regardless of the outcome, that's going to be when it's going to be a little bit more, wow, what just took place?
Hey, Coach, back here.
Yes.
As far as the game itself tomorrow night, the matchup, how do you go about trying to contain Oregon's offense? And then could you give us your thoughts about, what they've done defensively too this year?
Well, offensively, they are a juggernaut because of the pace at which they play and the athletes with which they play. And I don't mean this is disparaging, and I think if Chip were here, he'd agree. It's not overly complicated. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't have great coaching, and it's about pace, and it's about the frenetic speed that defenses are required to play with. And when you're a defense, not only are you having to get your call and try to assess what the formation is in that long, but you also have to trust everybody else, the other 10 guys on the field with you, are doing the same. And that's a very difficult thing to do when you're not sure, because you didn't have a huddle, to make sure everybody's got the right calls and trusting that everybody else. Invariably, when you watch Oregon's offense perform, especially when they get going and they look like a slot machine, when they get going like that, it's because defenses their eyes aren't right, their cleats aren't in the ground when the play starts, and they're late. And then you add the great athletes that are getting the ball, whether it be LaMichael James or DeAnthony Thomas or Kenyon Barner, and the list goes on and on. Whoever's got the rock, they are around the corner, and someone's, are you sure that's the call? And now you add fatigue to the mix. So it's a tall order, and it's not something people practice year round, except for Oregon. They practice it year round. So it's a tremendous challenge. And yet, if it were easy, everybody'd do it. So we're excited to get our chance.
What about their defense?
Defensively, Nick Alioti's been a long-time coordinator in this conference. He's extremely well respected. He's one of the good guys, if you will. He's kind of found different ways to blend his defense. He was an